An awful lot of us are going to have to adapt when the London Olympics comes to town. But one institution that's already making changes is the Royal Opera House. Their scenic workshops in East London must make way for the Games, and so they've decided to move further out of town to Purfleet in Essex. A good choice, as it happens, because as well as boasting a surprising wealth of showbiz talent, Purfleet also has a remarkable musical past, as Sadie 9 discovered.
Purfleet on the Thames estuary in Essex is part of the Thames Gateway regeneration area. It's in the shadow of the QE2 Dartford crossing, and it's still a hive of industry with its oil refinery, old chalk pits and the river. Now the people living here have a new neighbour arriving, and as with all new neighbours, the Royal Opera wanted to find the best way to introduce itself to the Purfleet community. And what better than to invite everyone to get involved in what you do best, a new opera. The Purfleet Opera has been devised through workshops with the people of Purfleet, and it was cast with a mixture of local people and the professional singers from the Royal Opera House.
Now my mistress's inheritance is confirmed.
You'll be soon have a new master.
They've made this space into a theatre, which is pretty amazing, and there are all sorts of pallets that have got to be wheeled on and off, and all sorts of things could go wrong, but I'm sure they won't.
And tell me about the piece, because I believe it's been devised through the workshops with the Purfleet people.
Yeah, they've been involved in the whole process. The text for all the references in the piece come from local history. I play Joanna, and I appear in each of the scenes that are little plays within the overall story.
Every aspect has been involved in the community, from the writing of the script to the writing of the music to the making of the costumes to the making of the props and to the performing, of course.
Okay, so we've got one. For a lot of them, they haven't been involved in professional theatre, and this is kind of run as a professional gig, even though it's a community piece. So there's been a lot of discipline needed to be learned. There's kind of one style of dance for the big dance piece. So that's something that they've had to kind of learn, I guess.
You've got dancers, singers, people that have got no experience in either, coming together to just do something they love. Ludd and Isis are the married couple who own the River Thames. Ludd is in charge of the lower river, Essex area, and he is all about industry, and he's married to Isis, who is all about Oxfordshire area, punting, cups of tea. So they're very contrast characters to be married.
It's been a very industrial area, and I think art's always something that everyone needs, if they know they need it or not. I think that, and I think this will definitely bring that excitement and that sort of that grounding of humanity into the area.
On the opening night, the Purfleet workshop will be converted into a Victorian fairground. But when the show is finished, it will become the new state-of-the-art construction and painting facility for the Royal Opera House.
What we're standing in the long run will be our paint shop. So we have our scenic painters for the Royal Opera House who will be painting the cloths that appear at our main stage performances back at Covent Garden. Just over here, but we've got a very tall steel gantry and paint frame there. And for the first time for the Royal Opera House, we'll be able to actually paint our cloths vertically, and then our designers can see the finished item once it's done, make sure that it looks just right for our shows.
For several years, the painters and set builders have been in a temporary home in Beckton since they lost their site to the Olympics.
This is the Giselle backcloth, designed by John McFarlane, and we can't hang that, so you've got a good sort of 3-4 metres hanging on the floor, which obviously is not right. It's also right in the middle of our paint studio here.
When you paint on a frame, you're able to stand further back from your work and get a better idea, whereas on the floor you have to go up ladders continually to see what you're doing and get your sense of perspective. Also, working on the floor can be very strenuous for your back because you're looking down, and all of us here have to be very careful about our posture, and you're taught that from the very beginning.
Of course, this is where the most serious of opera buffs will actually get to see the sets that have been made down there at the workshops at the Purfleet Production Park, here at the beautiful Royal Opera House, Covent Garden. The huge advantage of the new building is its sheer size. Whereas all the sets used to be made up in small sections, now the designers get to see their works in their full glory weeks ahead. This isn't the first time artists from Covent Garden have been linked with Purfleet. Victorian theatre manager Bram Stoker, the writer of Dracula, used to bring his troupes of actors here for fun weekends. This is really beautiful. I'd wondered why Bram Stoker would bring his entire cast from Covent Garden down here to Purfleet to get away from it all. Now I know why. Beautiful farm buildings, old barns, a Georgian farmhouse there, the wonderful gas lamp. It must have been stunning. I get it now. It's a gem in Purfleet. The illustrious visitors would hold parties at the Royal Hotel, also a favourite of Edward VII.
King Edward VII stayed here, which is where he got his name, the Royal Hotel.
And what was he doing here?
Well, we believe he used to come here for his whitebait suppers, and also, believe it or not, it used to be a high-class brothel, legend has it.
Really?
So yes, he used to come here for that.
What else did they get up to down here?
Used to have bare-knuckle fighting as well. Also, had people like Bram Stoker stay here during the time when he was writing his book.
So Dracula.
Yes, the one and only.
Much of the content of the new opera is about history of the site of the new workshop. Early in the 18th century, a sea captain Grantham died here and requested to be pickled in a rum barrel. His widow is a character in the Purfleet Opera.
High House actually exists on the grounds of the production park, and it's recently been restored. And Mrs. Grantham, who's supposedly a wealthy widow, and Captain Grantham has just died. Then she's pursued by three. It turns out they're widow hunters, they're called this thing, but they come pretending to be sea captains, and they claim they knew him and were at sea with him, which of course is rubbish.
The mistress takes pains over her appearance.
Suddenly, on the first night, the excitement of a Covent Garden gala comes to Purfleet, and all that hard work rehearsing has paid off.
At the moment it's manageable nerves. Yeah, I think once we get going, we'll be fine. Just getting into the swing of it.
Once it gets round to about sort of 7-ish, and we're all sort of sitting here. Thank you.
The whole experience of staging Ludd and Isis has been hugely rewarding for everyone involved.
I was umming and ahhing about whether I wanted to do musical theatre or opera as a career, and this has just cemented it, that I really must do opera.
I just retired. I was finding retirement extremely difficult, and I was invited along to an evening, and bingo.
I was told once by an old gypsy woman, I was only young, and she stopped my mum on the street and said, your little girl is going to be on the stage, she's going to be singing and dancing. And how true is that, you know? You would be the first, dear, you won't be the last to take me down to.
And amongst the 250 Purfleet volunteers who are taking part, the Royal Opera House has discovered some amazing local talent.